The Metis Tech Show.
Welcome to the Metis Tech Show, a show for HVAC professionals by HVAC professionals.
The Metis Tech Show.
Mitsubishi.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Metis Tech Show. So, how was your travel here?
It was okay. It was kind of cold, chilly this morning. I had to pick up somebody from their home this morning because they were having problems with their car.
And where did you fly in from?
I flew in from Cincinnati. It was straight flight, first class, baby.
Oh,
Yeah, I got status.
I flew in next to the UPS box. Very cheap ticket.
I bet you were tossed around a few times, weren't you?
It's nice being back up in New England from Florida. It's 61 degrees and I can't find enough jackets.
Wow. Speaking of New England, what are we having for dinner
Oh,
tonight?
going to have some chowder.
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 I like chowder.
Stuffed quahogs. You know what stuffed quahog is?
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, as the Wampanoag say, quahog.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a clam. It's a hard shell clam.
All right.
It's got some linguiça in it, Portuguese style.
No, I like Portuguese food.
Yeah, I come up here at 2:06. I go home at 2:11, and that's pounds, by the way. So,
I hear that. I feel it. I feel it.
So listen, what the heck are we talking about today?
Well, today we're going to talk about going on a service call.
Yeah, let's keep it short because I'm hungry now. I want to talk about food.
What should technicians do when they approach a service call? And, I tell in my classes, the technician is dealing with two problems. One is the equipment problem. The other one is the homeowner problem.
Who is always right.
And I asked them, which one of those two are they good at? And the answer is the equipment problem, because that's what they're trained for. But if they don't take time to approach the homeowner and get the symptoms, establish a relationship. I learned a long time ago that the homeowner does not have to like me, but they have to trust me.
So what are you saying? You're looking at me saying I have to like you and trust you.
Yeah, because you look kind of shady across the desk over here.
I'm out of here.
But anyway, approach the homeowner with no tools.
Right.
I picture many technicians wearing a backpack full of tools and a set of gauges hanging like a collar, and then a recovery machine on their left hand and a vacuum pump on the right, approaching the front door and say, "Okay, miss, where is it?"
Yep.
No relationship building, nothing of that sort. Yeah, and they're missing the point.
My experiences, too, because I've been in a service van quite a few years, I'd probably get a third of the service call completed just by talking to the customer. What's going on? What's not going on? What did you do? Did you trip any breakers? Did you touch anything? Am I the third person you called?
Yeah, I mean, where is the equipment located?
Right.
How old is it?
Right.
If things like that, just engage with the homeowner.
Right.
So establish that relationship. So once that's done, I believe we should be looking for blinking lights.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. Like when we do a class, we bug our equipment.
Yes.
Isn't it funny how we say, okay, ready, let's go. Let's do a service call. We'll give them a scenario what the equipment is. And the first thing they do is they go out to the piece of unit and start ripping off the panel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? Is that what you do at a customer's house? Is that ripping off the panel before you even say hello to them? So let's go from that approach.
Yeah.
Let's go from that approach.
I love that because I tell them the scenario is the homeowner talking to you. You should listen to the homeowner, and the scenario is what allows you to proceed.
What'd you say?
The scenario
Listen.
is what allows you to proceed in the service call. I'm speaking English, right? No hablo inglés. Contracto. All right. So, yes, we're inside already. We're looking for a controller, whether it's a handheld or a wall-mounted or a wireless like the MHK2. And, we look for lights. We look for lights at the indoor units first, and then we confirm that there's whether there's maybe some blinking lights outside, and then we go back inside and turn the system on.
And again, you talk about talking to the customer, and I would ask the customer, did you shut the unit off? Did you shut the disconnect off? Because sometimes I have customers, they tell me, well, the service guy or the installation guy when he was here said, if you got a problem, shut it off and reset it. So, that's another great question to ask them because you may be getting there with it already locked in code, faulted out, or in the process of doing that. So,
Right, and we need to be careful which words to use also. Like I learned a long time ago, we refer to a unit making noise.
We all make noise.
Yeah, to me, noise is a negative.
Yeah.
So I changed that to sound, which is better. That unit is making a sound, or is that unit making noise? Which one is better in the customer's mind?
Like as far as what sounds different or what sounds right?
Yes, it may be an objectionable.
That was the perplexed look you had on my face on that one.
Yeah, I mean, is it an objectionable sound?
Right.
Noise is a negative in a human's mind. Right. So by tweaking the language a little bit, it removed that negativity that the homeowner may have towards the product or towards the issue. They may not have a problem.
Right.
So by using certain words, we tend to make it worse.
Yeah, that's good information. That's good information. So the technician goes in, and the first thing he should do, in my opinion, is probably just try to start the equipment after they talk to the customer.
Okay.
I think at that point, whether it's a wall mount control or handheld mount control, just talk to the customer, try to start the piece of equipment, and listen for sound or noise, as you just said. And, it was a very good point on how to explain that, or, the difference of the two. And then at that point, look for some sort of, flash code, depending on what type of piece of equipment it is. Whether, inside, obviously that's where I'd be first before I approach the outside unit. So.
Right. And then, the point I was talking about noise and sound is to forget the word noise. Use sound instead, is the point I was trying to make. So, yeah, you're inside, you turn the unit on, so you're looking for a controller, right?
I am.
And what kind of controller might there be?
Well, there could be a handheld remote controller or a wall mount. And the wall mounts, we have a couple choices of what type they are, but nevertheless, it's either on the wall or you put it in your hand.
Okay. So what kind of tools do you need for that?
Probably just a little bit of knowledge how to run the controller.
Yeah, that's it. No tools, no hand tools.
But let me ask you a question. What if I need to find out more information about that? Here it comes, mylinkdrive.com.
Exactly. And you can find that on your tablet or your mobile device. And anything and everything you need to know about Mitsubishi is found on mylinkdrive.com.
So basically, they're in the house with a handheld or wall mount controller and a tablet or a computer or a phone, and that's probably where they're going to start right there.
Right, and then let's say the equipment did start.
Okay,
what should you do next?
Well, I'm probably going to look for like some sort of fault, see if it happens, see if it stops running or intermittently tries to run. And, at that point, if I do get a fault code, probably one of my most important tools at that point is mylinkdrive.com. That's where I'm going to find the information.
And also in the scenario that there may not be any fault codes right there, I recommend the guys do a Delta T.
Oh, sure.
To see if the outdoor unit is running or where our temperature drop or temperature rise, depending on the mode, it may be.
Yeah, that's a lot of quick information with some pretty simple tools.
Exactly.
That gives you a good idea right there. If you have a, very low delta T or just, it seems like it's just, recirculating air, then you got a problem. But at least you're engaged in the customer at that point. And actually, to some degree, make them a part of the service call. Educate them. Layman's term, just tell them what you're looking for.
Yeah, and once you find that blinking pattern, that fault code.
That was a tough thing to say.
It was. There was something going through my throat at that moment.
We could put this on pause and clear our throats.
Yeah, I know. That was a Cuban frog going through. Anyways, so we've got the flashing lights.
Yeah.
So when we go to MyLink Drive, we have to be sure we're looking at the correct chart, because one chart is for historical fault codes, while another chart is for current fault codes. And a lot of times we may get confused out in the field. We may be looking at the wrong fault code list and leading us through a dark path that we'll never find. In some other cases, some of the product will give us a digital display, but not all of them do.
Right. And if you have a fault code on the inside, would you have a fault code on the outside?
It's on some products you do. You have to look at both.
Yeah.
Because many charts will tell you how many blinks are in the indoor unit, how many blinks are on the outdoor unit, and then specifically tells you what that fault code means.
Yeah, and just let people know is that especially the service techs out there and stuff like that, everything that you need. We have no secret book. There is no secret book. It's all on mylinkdrive.com. And
talking about Delta T is you'll need a thermometer. Okay, it's all you need. It's a thermometer.
Sure.
You run the system. You're at the indoor unit. Okay, you measure the return air temperature. All right, and then you measure the supply air temperature.
And you're looking for a split of what?
A 20 to 30 according to the service manual.
So that's our traditional numbers on all equipment. So nothing's changed on that. So if you've been doing this since the 70s like we have, we still look for that same number, 20-degree split minimum.
Right. And typically in the cooling mode, the return air temperature will be a higher number than the supply air temperature.
And what about in heating mode?
You do. In the heating mode, it's the opposite. Mm-hmm. Your return air temperature will be lower than your supply. So you do the math, and that's how you find your temperature differential.
And we in the heating mode, we look for a good 40-degree split. And that simply means the air's coming in at 65. We want it to be coming out at 105.
Right.
And so we could do that real quick. I actually, technology, I have a little infrared temperature sensor. I just put it on the vane, and it might be a little bit different, but only by a couple degrees. That way I don't have to bring a ladder, dirty up the customer's house, things along the lines of that.
Yeah, I'm old school.
Yeah, I know.
Like
I know you are.
I
know you are.
I don't like those laser thermometers. But one thing to keep in mind, the thing to remember when you're looking for Delta T, that 20 to 30 degree differential.
Cooler mode, yep.
You're doing it on test mode.
Always.
Because you never know what the demand is on normal operation, so you can't really verify at 20 to 30 differential on normal operation.
And there's a couple different ways we can put things into test mode. Some situations we could put them in with a controller. We could put them in with Kumo Cloud. We got a button we can push. So that's very important to realize that you have to have it in test mode. All right. And if you are doing some troubleshooting, you really want to take it out of test mode and put it into normal operation. So good point. But, Delta T, it's been around since the beginning. It's going to be around at the end.
Yes. And then once you find that blinking pattern, that fault code, then you go to the service manual. And I emphasize unit-specific service manual because there's not one service manual for all. And that's to find what the problem or what that fault code actually means. So go ahead.
So now we've established that we got a fault code on the inside. So now we're going to head outside. I carry a small tool pouch. Everybody's got their own compartment they put the tools in. Anyways, so the one thing I'm probably not going to bring out there would be my gauges. Most of the time, you don't need your gauges at all. We just really use the gauges nowadays. If we are pretty positive that we have a leak in refrigerant, but you can gain a lot of that information. In some controls, depending on what they are, depending on what the model of the unit is, you can gain some information from the controllers. But gauges, we just don't use them that much anymore. Cross-contamination, losing refrigerant. These are considered critical charge refrigerant systems, and that means exactly what it is, critical charge. So go out the side, take a look at the unit, take off the panel, see if you can find a blinking flash code out as well. And once again, back to mylinkdrive.com. That's where the information is.
And then I love the manuals because they're so clear in what process to take. In some cases, you may have a troubleshooting chart that requires you to answer questions in a yes or no ansers.
Flow charts, my favorite.
Absolutely.
Yep,
and they're fully understood. And then but one thing that I realized that happened to me is if I skip a step, and I reach to a certain location that says, go back and do something else that I just did 5 minutes ago, you better go back and do it again because what it's trying to tell you is whatever is going on further down is not making sense, so you need to go back and start over again.
Yeah, flow charts are nice like that. I like them too. They're one of my favorites, but not always like that. Some things have you doing things in a different sequence and different way of doing it. But all that critical information, once again,
Yeah, and regarding the gauges, we can't say that enough. I mean, you never need them because you've got Delta T. Delta T checks refrigerant charge and airflow.
Everything.
That's all you need to check.
Absolutely.
So you should never have to use the gauges. And the reason why we don't recommend using gauges is why?
Cross-contamination, loss of refrigerant.
Absolutely.
Once again, cross-contamination could be nitrogen, different type of refrigerant. It's just not, you just don't need to do it.
Right.
You don't need to, unless you really suspect a leak and you see some sort of deposit of oil.
Yeah, and then sometimes you may have to, if the service code, the fault code, requires you to do a voltage test. Yes, another tool that you should have in your toolbox is a good multimeter, one that will allow you to measure voltage, resistance, and then on the resistance side, you need to have one that will allow you to measure at least up to 1 mega ohm. I've known the 2 meters that I have both measure up to 40 mega ohms. But on the voltage side, you want individual scale. You don't want to use auto scales because we are dealing with both AC and DC voltage in our circuits. And then the meter, it cannot decide which one to display on your digital display.
So you want to be able to control specifically what you're checking at that time, whether it's AC or DC.
Absolutely.
On AC or DC.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to set it on the DC scale if you're looking for DC voltage, or you want to set it on the AC scale for AC voltage.
And let me just say this. On my meter, I have, I call them electronic leads. They're almost like a needle. They're adjustable or extendable. Typical leads for that meter, just not going to work on a board. A couple of things they work fine on. S1, S2, things along the lines of that. Line voltage coming into the to the lugs. But when you get into those connectors, very small openings, very small, and a good set of needle leads work just fine. Real cheap to get them.
Absolutely, and they're great for when you go inside the connectors because you do not have to remove a connector to test. As a matter of fact, you don't want to remove any connector with the power into the unit.
Why not?
Because what does DC positive always follow?
Always follows ground.
Absolutely. So if you unplug
Boom.
a plug, exactly, you can either harm yourself or harm the control board by creating a spark.
And that's almost a guarantee. You unplug high voltage DC, you're going to lose the board.
Yes. So the needle leads will allow you to go inside the connector and look for voltage and so forth. One thing that we need to realize also, Roland, is not every service call that we go on is a problem service call.
Explain that a little bit more for our fans.
Because let's say that at night, for instance, we're in the bedroom, we have a wall-mounted unit, and the system may not be the indoor unit may not be running like a multi-zone, but we hear refrigerant flow through the line set, and then the customer complains about hearing sound, not necessarily a noise, but they complain about that. But that's not a problem. That's lack of communication between the contractor and the homeowner, not explaining on what to expect.
And that's a good point because sometimes we have to pull things apart. And I think the customer typically thinks that if I'm pulling something apart, there's something wrong.
We're looking for something.
So that's a very good point you bring up. And then, again, that goes back to that customer relationship, reassuring them, or just at least keeping them update on what you're doing and why.
Right.
And if you did have that situation where, like you said, at nighttime you can have refrigerant movement depending on what the system is doing, and explain it to that customer, and that just kind of seals the deal with the customer, saying, okay, good, this guy knows what he's doing. He's probably going to go to something else, which would be the outdoor unit, and that's what you're going to do.
And one thing that I can share about, because this really happened to me in the field when I was on my own company, I went on a service call, and the homeowner, someone else had installed the system, but they failed to explain how a inverter system worked versus a single stage on and off type of air conditioning system.
Sure.
So the system will, on a single stage system, the system is going to go on and off. And that's what they've been used to for 20, 30 years. So now you go in with an inverter product, Mitsubishi, and the system runs at a lower capacity, much longer time. What are they thinking? If you don't explain that process, what are they thinking? They think it's going to cost me more because that thing has been running for an hour. So that's what you need to spend some time on.
And just to mirror that, follow up on that, I had a customer call me one time and said, "I got a service call. My fan motors, fan blade is barely running." And I said, "Well, what's the temperature in the house?" "Well, it's set at what I got the thermostat or the controller set at." And I was like, "Okay, so what's the problem?" "Well, that fan is not running. I'm telling you right now, it's not running." And I explained to the customer, I said, "Listen, call me tomorrow. If it's still running fine, just let me know. That system will adjust to the temperature." I said, "The reason the fan's running so slow, that's the smart system you have."
Right.
And they were like, "Oh, okay, I understand that a little bit." And so that's what you're referring to. And that stuff happens.
And that, especially in that scenario, they're thinking they've got a problem. But if the controller and the temperature in the room matches what the controller is asking
What's the problem?
There's no problem.
There's no problem. So that was kind of nice because also the customer's like, "Well, you would have come out here and told me that." I said, "Yeah, I would have." And she said, "Would you have billed me?" I said, "I have to."
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, you just saved me a lot of money. I like you guys." So
Right.
and that's
It goes
all.
to trust.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is the first moment. So in recapping, the first thing to do is to approach the homeowner, get an idea of what's going on. You don't need any tools for this. And then what after you approach the homeowner?
I just asked a scenario, what's going on, what she is or he is experiencing, or what led up to the specific reason why they called. Now, obviously, a real clear one is that you set the controller for 74 degrees and it's 81 degrees in your house in the summertime, or vice versa. In the wintertime, set it for 68 and it's 52. That's clear information that there's a problem.
Okay. And then depending on what we hear, depends on what we do.
Absolutely.
We always try to bring the system on first, then go from there.
Okay, so the scenario is customer had a problem. Service tech went in there, established communication with the customer, diagnosed a piece of equipment. Let's just say they found out what it was and they were able to fix it. They fix it. What would the service tech do next?
Okay, before fixing it, I believe the technician should go to the homeowner and say, "Mrs. Jones, this is what I found, and I can fix it." Saying the technician saying, "I can fix it," what do you think that do to the homeowner?
Oh, it's trust. It's trust.
Absolutely. I'm here. I've got what I need to fix it with. I'm going to go ahead and fix it with your approval, and then proceed. And then he fixes it. Then they have fixed the problem. Then they go back. They clean up, button up the equipment, clean up, make sure that all trash that has been created, like when you strip wires, I go to many jobs, and I said the insulation on the grass, that's a negative.
Absolutely.
You don't want to put and then you clean up, you tidy up, and then you go in and you converse with the homeowner. Your system is working properly, and the reason why I know it's working properly because the Delta T I did not have before, I have now.
Yeah.
So that's the proof in the pudding.
And, one of the things I also do, I always tell her, if I'm outside at the condensing unit and things along the lines of that, and I notice shrubbery and plants and leaves, up here in New England, we really don't have this in Florida, but you have leaves, and I do not miss raking them up. But I just make the customer aware that they may have some stuff out there that may block the condenser a little bit, and that could cause a problem. And it's just, again, it's right from the very beginning. It's just establishing trust. It's doing your job, and sounds like a lot of the job is communication.
Absolutely.
That's what it sounds like to me.
And once you establish that trust, you're not going to have any problems getting paid.
Yeah.
There's no questioning. You engage the homeowner. You're making part of the process. You present your bill, and they happily write you a check.
I'm calling you the next time something breaks down at my house.
Any day, buddy.
I know I could fix it, but I'd just rather have a nice conversation with you.
I'll teach you the difference between noise and sound.
Oh, I know.
All right, so I think that's it. We've given a lot of information on this and on what to do on the service call.
Love to have you register for class. Love to see you in my class. Love to see you in one of the classes throughout the 11 different schools. Right
Hope
on.
to see you then.
All right, baby.
Adios.
I'll be back.
Hasta la vista.